Hello YouTube, it is Mewtwo Overkill here once again, going to be giving you a deck profile of a deck I finished recently but haven't really had much of a chance to show off. It's a deck that you probably have already seen before, but but for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to show you, because this deck might actually end up getting hit because it uses a certain card, and with the upcoming set, I think that card might get banned on the next ban list. But anyway, you can see it's an Exodia deck. I call it Exodia the Librarian, but it's the Exodia spell counter draw FTK. That isn't as good as it used to be, but it's still a really fun deck to just troll your friends with. And I've actually taken it to a locals and topped before, just for fun. I took it to a locals and I actually topped it. But I wouldn't take this to anything higher than the local unless you really want to, unless you're that big of a troll and you just want to try and beat people with this. But it's mostly a just for fun thing. So anyway, as with any Exodia deck, you're going to be using the 5 pieces of Exodia. Once they're all in your hand at the same time, you win the game. The only problem with Exodia is that individually, each piece is a dead card. So if you have 4 of them in your hand, but not the 5th, that's 4 dead cards in your hand. So that's the problem with Exodia, is that he's really inconsistent in that sense. But he kind of has to be, just to balance him out, because he has an automatic win condition. Next up, the only other monster in the deck is 3 Royal Magical Library. This is the card I was telling you about that I think might get banned on the next ban list, because of all the Ignite FTKs that would come over here in the next set. This card is literally, you normal summon it. It has 0 attack, but you normal summon it just so you can use its effect right away. You play 3 spells, then you draw a card. Because each time this card gets a counter, and then you take the 3 counters off to draw a card. So this is your main. This helps you turbo through the deck faster, because the rest of the cards in this deck are all spell cards. So that's how Royal Magical Library works, and it helps you get to your win condition of Exodia. So first up, we've got 2 Spell Power Grasps. How this works is it puts a spell counter on a card that can have a spell counter on it. And then because it's a spell card, it also adds another spell counter. So you play this target library with to put a counter on it. Then you're basically getting 2 counters for the price of 1. And then you can add another copy of Spell Power Grasp from your deck to your hand. But you can only activate 1 of these per turn. But it's still good because it thins your deck out. And we have ways to get rid of dead cards in our hand that I'll go into later. More deck thinning with triple Toon Table of Contents and Toon World. Toon Table of Contents is a spell card that searches itself. You play it, search one, play it, search the last one. You play the last one to search Toon World. You want to try and hold off on using these until you have Library on the field, because this is 3 counters for Library, maybe even 4 if you need to activate Toon World, because Toon World you just drop it by paying 1,000 life points. And it's still a spell card, so it's giving you more spell counters. I wanted to try to use the Dragon engine with Trade-In and Cards of Consonance and Blue Eyes and Whitestone. I really don't. I think that build's even more inconsistent than this one. It's really sacky and really fun when it works, but I feel like this one wins more often. It's like a 60 to 70% chance of FTKing, depending on if you go first or second. I like to go second with this deck, even though that's my opponent's setup. That extra card from going second makes a whole lot of difference. I should also mention, this deck was more powerful when you still got to draw on the first turn. So I usually go second with this deck. Just to get that extra card. I know my opponent could play stuff to disrupt me, but that extra card makes a humongous difference. Next up, we got 1 day apiece. Only 1 because you can play because it's restricted to 1. And this is also good. It gives you a card from your deck, and then it also stalls you for 1 turn if you can't pull off the FTK. So that's also very helpful. 1 pot of Duality. You don't run more than 1 because this is an FTK deck, so you're trying to win on the first turn of the game, and you can only play 1 pot of Duality per turn. 3 Upstart Goblins lets you run this is basically running a 37 card deck legally, because all of these is just an extra card out of your deck. Draw 1. Your opponent gets 1,000 life points, but life points don't matter when you're trying to win with Exodia. We have 3 Dark World Dealings. Each player draws 1, then discards 1, so it's another draw. And then you also discard 1, so it gets rid of dead cards in your hand. Like, it gets rid of a used up spell Power Grasp. It gets rid of extra copies of Toon Table contents that you can't use. It gets rid of extra copies of the library you can't use. You don't want to discard your Exodia pieces, though, because you have no way to get them back. At least in this build. There are some builds that try to run stuff to bring the Exodia pieces back, but I find that deteriorates from the prime objective, and you're just trying. You're basically all you're trying to do is get them out of the deck as fast as possible. So if they Mind Crush your Exodia piece, you're pretty much hosed. But like I said, this deck's just for fun. Hand Destruction, basically a 2 for 2 Dark World Dealings. Each player sends 2, then draws 2. So I only run 1 because your opponent has to have 2 cards in their hand in order to activate this. So they can play around it by only bringing their hand down to 1 card. I do have a card that remedies that, but I only run 1. It's just an extra draw card that helps you stop from running out of gas. Now we have Cup of Ace. Toss a coin. If heads, you draw 2. If tails, your opponent draws 2. If heads, I draw 2. If tails, the opponent draws 2. And either way, it's a spell counter on library. And then it also gives, if tails, it gives your opponent 2 cards, which means Hand Destruction is now live again. 3 Magical Mallet and 1 Reload. This is to help with more consistency. Just get dead cards out of your hand, put them back into the deck, draw that same number of cards. It's a really heavy luck. It's kind of a luck-based deck in that sense. But these really help out. They're also all spell cards, so like I said, every other card from here on out is going to be a spell card, because we want to give Royal Magical Library the counters. 3 Broken Bamboo Sword to go with Golden Bamboo Sword. Broken Bamboo Sword, you just equip this onto Library, or if you don't have Library and you're going second and your opponent has a face-up monster, you can equip this to their monster. It doesn't matter who it's equipped to as long as Broken Bamboo Sword is on your side of the field, because then you get to play Golden Bamboo Sword, which, if you control Broken Bamboo Sword, you draw 2 cards. It's Pot of Greed. And then we have Magical Citadel of Endymion. Field spell that lets you use spell counters on it in place of spell counters on your cards that have spell counters on them. The catch is you can only use that ability once per turn, which is why you run 3 copies, because like after you use one, you can destroy it, play another, play some spells, get the counters again, use them up for Library's effect, and so on. And then to search these out, we have 1 Terraforming. I don't like more than 1 Terraforming in this deck. I feel it makes it it's too many dead cards with more than 1 Terraforming. Wonder Wand. Royal Magical Library is a spellcaster, so if I need to, I contribute it with Wonder Wand's effect to get another 2 cards. And the last card of the deck is Double Summon. What's better? 2 Royal Magical Libraries is better than 1. This can be dead sometimes, but when you get the right hand, it really helps. So this was the Exodia Library FTK. This is at least my build. There's a lot of different versions of this FTK. They're all very inconsistent now that certain cards are banned. But I'd still say it's a very fun deck to just play around with. It's a very good solitaire deck. If you know what that is, you're basically just playing by yourself at that point. But it's still fun to just make your friends get mad at you for playing Exodia, and just seeing their reaction. They think, "Oh, he's not going to FTK me. That deck's way too inconsistent." And then it's just all the more satisfying when you actually pull it off. This has been Mewtwo Overkill. Hit me up with those comments and those likes. And And I'll see you all in the next video. Orichalcos Challenge update coming up. Don't forget about that. And see you all later. Goodbye.